Brodes Media.
What is going on, everyone? Before we attack the Eagles training camp conversation, if you are new to the channel, we are on the road to 20,000 subscribers. So smash that subscribe button and also hit that thumbs up button too. On Twitter, real quickly, we just hit 6,000 followers, but let's keep boosting that number up too. Head on over to Twitter, @Brodes81. Hit the follow button. You are all the best. I love you. I love you. I love you. With that, enjoy the show. What is going on, everyone? Welcome on into Sports Talk with Brodes. Okay, the Eagles are in training camp, and there's a lot to dive into. And we will unfortunately start with the bad news that Devonta Smith is going to miss some time. Now, ultimately, when you think of the regular season, I'm sure he will be capable of going out there underneath the tunnel and flying out in front of Eagles fans when we talk about the beginning of the season. But I do think it's important to notice that such a young, raw rookie is missing out on some time to learn little things throughout this game and to get better each and every day. And I hate that cliche. I'm so sick that I just said that. There's nothing worse, in my opinion, than hearing these players say 1% better every day. So I apologize, and I think I'm just so accustomed to hearing it over and over and over again that it naturally just came out of my mouth. And now I'm sick, and now I'm thrown in for a loop, and I really don't know what direction to go in right now because I'm bothered and I'm pissed off with myself. But I digress. He is expected to miss 2 to 3 weeks with the sprained MCL. And, you just talk about the route, and you talk about connection with Jalen Hurts and being out there, whether you're in pads, which we will see tomorrow for Tuesday's practice, or if it's just shorts, and it's not so much a physical, intense battle out there. It's just the fact that you're young, you're new, you're a rookie, and you do learn every day you're on that field, and you're missing out on that time. So how important is it? Well, it could linger. I mean, let's not rule that out. It's not as if this Eagles organization has had the best luck in the world with the blue tent. The blue tent is the devil. I'm seeing Ryan Kerrigan go to the blue tent with some sort of hand injury, wrist injury, something bothering him, which, is already popping up. It's a nightmare scenario when you see. Remember that year, what was it, 2 years ago? It might even been last year. There's so many damn problems with this team. They all kind of meshed together, but there was a line. Almost as if you're waiting at Starbucks and there's one person working and you're waiting and you're thinking, what the hell is taking so damn long? There was a line at the tent to get checked out. It was a disaster. So, look, it's not great news. It's not the end of the world either, but it is deflating to know that we're already having this dialogue. And let's be clear, it's not only the Eagles. You see what's going on in Indianapolis, and more on that as we continue the conversation. And there's a lot of teams that have significant injuries and brutal franchise-changing or season-changing injuries that happen in training camp. It's not just the Eagles, but it is disappointing because, you do hear about some highlights with some nice throws between Hurts and Devonta Smith, and, he's the pride and joy. This season is not going to be all about winning a lot of football games. I think Kevin Kincaid said it best of Crossing Broad, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but the moral of his story was, he tweeted this out, it's maybe not so much about wins or losses, but let's not have a billion injuries. We just want to see the team out there. If they lose, but Devonta Smith, Jalen Reagor, Jalen Hurts, Miles Sanders, the offensive line is out there, and they're involved in football games, but losing, but they're healthy, that's way better than if we're stuck watching Jaquette and we're stuck watching, all these guys that you pick up off the street that work at Foot Locker. Please, that's where it gets miserable and absolutely disappointing. So, that's the news for Devonta Smith. There's a couple guys that are nicked up. You saw Brandon Brooks leave practice a couple days ago, and that's something that makes me nervous just because, look, even though I believe him and Lane Johnson, the right side of the offensive line, have more left in the tank, even though they're hitting that back stretch, if you will, they are getting over that 30 mark. And when you think about this league and specifically, these players that are in the trenches, when you start touching that area, things start to go south. So I'm nervous. I'm nervous for that right side of the offensive line, whether I should be less than I am. Brandon Brooks is a freak. We've seen him come back from an injury before that was mind-blowing, and he does it at a rapid pace, and he seems superhuman. But at some point, the superhuman does degrade a little bit, right? There's some back to reality type of realistic just human nature that's involved. And, to a degree, I am concerned of that right side of the line, and we'll see how that all shapes up. So let's get to Jalen Hurts, right? So you hear some good things about what he's doing out there, and we all know about the intangibles. I'm talking more about what he's doing on the football field, and there's a lot about some throws that are sailing on him, and some throws that are 5 yards behind the receiver, and some throws that are just going completely out of bounds. There's a reason why this is training camp. No one's just going to come to training camp and have everything rocking and rolling, especially with the young coaching staff that's trying to build their identity and trying to mold the players the way that they want them to be molded. And on top of that, you got a lot of young players that are learning the game as well. So no one's expecting dominance from day one. You are supposed to have issues, and then you fix those issues as you play football for the next handful of weeks before we start talking about preseason and regular season action. So it's supposed to occur. They are human beings that are going to make errors. But what I'm a little confused about, or skeptical, maybe skeptical is the right word, when you're in shorts and you're just throwing the football around and there's not live action and there's not real, true pressure, and you're not playing to the full capabilities, it's just running through things with shorts, and that's when you're missing. It's sort of like an NBA player. We can make fun of the worst NBA players in the league, role players, bench players, Spencer Halls, and even Markelle Fultz, and even Ben Simmons. If you put them in an empty gym, they're making every shot. Not every shot, but you get my point. 98% of shots, 99% of shots. When no one's on, the worst shooters in the NBA in an open gym, you make all your shots. It's when you put defenders in their face, when you play 5-on-5, when there's legitimate action going on, which is when they clearly show their signs of flaws. To not be able to do it in shorts and having accuracy issues, which is a big problem. You'd want to talk about Carson Wentz and the debacle that he had in the accuracy department. Last season, you go look back at the numbers, Jalen Hurts was not good at all with the accuracy. So, the fact that that's already happening now, there's some question marks there. And I'm rooting for Jalen Hurts. I did not support the pick at the time. I did not understand why they did that after signing their franchise quarterback. And you could talk about injuries all you want right now, knowing the news that he's going to be out 5 to 12 weeks, which is such a big window, may I add. That's extreme. That's a big portion of the season that you're talking about if it's 12 weeks compared to 5 weeks. But with Jalen Hurts, I'm rooting for the kid. There's something to be said about the way that this team, loves him, supports him, is all in on him. They all praise his leadership like no other. So he does do the little things that are extremely important at the quarterback position. But you know what else is extremely important? Being able to throw the football, being able to read the progressions, being able to actually go to your second and third read instead of tucking and running, which we've seen in the past in his 4 games, which is a small sample size. And how much of that was because your offensive line was getting abused. You don't have the time. You weren't able to sit back, relax, and start looking through your progressions because you knew that your offensive line was getting absolutely hosed. Now, I do want to bring up Jalen Hurts' accuracy. Just to give yourself some comparison here, Jalen Hurts last year, his completion percentage was 52%. Carson Wentz last season was, and this is a good exercise, if you will, 57.4%. So Carson Wentz, who was labeled erratic, who was labeled all over the place, which, fair. Jalen Hurts was worse than that. Now, one guy was in a lot of years into his career, and one guy, we looked at as MVP caliber player. The other was playing 4 games and thrown into a very uncomfortable situation with not a proper training camp, with COVID-19 protocols in place. One of the most bizarre seasons we could ever remember. So yeah, absolutely, I'm willing to admit that and willing to factor that into the equation without a doubt. But I'm just saying that has to get better. And the fact that, and we're only a handful of practices in, this is all with that understanding. I'm not saying because 3 practices into the season, I'm out on this player, I'm upset with this player, Nick Sirianni's confusing me. No, I'm willing to wait and see how this all plays out. But this is the information I have right now. And based off of this being training camp, and this is what we know, and this is what we've seen, I'm going to react to what I see. But I'm truly pulling for the kid. You know, I'm really rooting for him to be that guy, and I think that's crucial to the future of this franchise, because you think about making big decisions with those assets that you acquired for next year's draft, and that's going to be the difference in grabbing a quarterback next year or riding hot with Jalen Hurts and continuing to build with him. So let's get to Carson Wentz. All right, so he needs surgery. Everyone's talking about this second-round pick, which is pretty much inevitable, that it's not going to be a first-round pick. It'll be a second. First things first, I honestly just feel bad for Carson Wentz. Whether I should or shouldn't or who cares, he's out of this city. I'm just looking at it from an athlete-competitor's perspective first. This guy's been through hell, man. This guy's been through so damn much. And the foolish topic of this guy's a quitter, he hated this team, he walked away, he's a baby. I mean, fine, if you really feel that way, you're entitled to that opinion. That's not how I personally feel about the situation. Knowing the way that Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie operates specifically over the last handful of years compared to previous seasons under Andy Reid and maybe under Chip Kelly, although Howie Roseman got thrown away in the back room while Jeffrey Lurie gave Chip Kelly all the opportunities in the world, but that to some degree shows the dysfunction, I'm sure, and a lot that I hear as well from behind the scenes from some of my sources is this place is a riot. The way that this organization is ran is insanely wild. It's bonkers. I'm sure that's not breaking news and shocking to anybody's ears. But, I mean, come on, from the surface, from 10,000 feet away, to say that this is all Carson Wentz's fault and he's such a baby, it's on him. I mean, I just can't go down that road personally. But if you want to, fine by you. But just from a competitor standpoint, you know, I've been towards the end of my hockey career in a lot of situations where I was injured. My thumb was dangling off my hand because I blocked a shot in practice, which ruined my freshman year for the whole entire first half of the year. Luckily, I was able to battle back and play some in the second half, but it wasn't easy. And then I had a huge bone bruise on my foot after blocking a shot when we were in France. And when we came back to, we played some pro teams over in France. It was an awesome experience. We came back to play the regular season out because that was during our break that we had during Christmas. And when we returned, you know, it's like, hey, I can't fit my foot in my skate. And there goes the rest of my sophomore campaign. And then I hung up the skates to chase the dream that I had of sports talk radio. So that was my college career. My last 2 seasons, it was hindered by injuries, and it's a very frustrating, emotional, mental battle. And for Carson Wentz to finally get to a new spot, to have that energy and buzz, and for his foot to basically collapse on him and need surgery, like, I want to see what Carson Wentz is all about. This story is still being told, and if he was able to compete with Frank Reich under that new system in a whole entire new city with a new team and something fresh, we're thinking about writing the next chapter of this book, and it tells the full story of what the Eagles do. Like, that does generate this whole entire Eagles conversation on what moves they made. Did it make sense? I'm trying to complete the book. I'm trying to read the entire book from front page to last page, and right now it's like the author, guess what? He took a break. He's taking a break. He's on vacation. And now you're hearing Nick Foles. He wants to play with Frank Reich. There's no way they can do that, right? I'm seeing some reports about Marcus Mariota. We'll see what the Colts do. But I'm disappointed because I want to see Carson Wentz play in a new city and see what it means for him, see what it means for the Eagles. There are still defining moments to figure out with that trade. But it looks like the Eagles are getting the second-round pick, and Basically, he's not going to be able to hit that 70% mark. I think what I saw was 70% in the playoffs or 75% total without the playoffs being in the mix. If it's only 5 weeks, I guess it's in play. I wouldn't anticipate it being 5 weeks, since when is it ever on the earlier side of things, especially with a player who's had so many issues in the past before. I would imagine that it's probably going to be more towards the end, or if it's in the middle, but 5 seems a little bit raw, in my opinion. I see two views of this second-round pick, though. I see one side that says, wow, Howie Roseman's a genius. He got rid of Carson Wentz knowing that he was injury prone. And then I saw the other side, which was, how can you possibly say Howie Roseman's a genius now? Everyone thought it would be a first-round pick, and you only got a second for Carson Wentz. Well, realistically, Carson Wentz is hurt, right? Now, I don't know if that would have actually happened here in Philadelphia as well. It would be very painful to find out that news today as we're anticipating Eagles season. You get the news dropped on you after what we've already been through, that Wentz is banged up, but he's going to need surgery. That would be insanely heartbreaking, and I think it's the right move to get the surgery. They were having the debate on if he would get surgery or if they would wait a little bit of time to figure out if maybe they can just wait it out. That would be disastrous. Getting the surgery was the right move for the Colts and Wentz himself. The way I look at it is this. Because I was asked this by my producer on The Fanatic this weekend. Dan Fritz does an amazing job. He asked the question, with Wentz's injury, was that the reason why Howie Roseman got out of this, the injury? And I would say that played a role. But if you're going to look at the tiers on why Carson Wentz left town, it was the relationship. Then it was probably play last season. And then it was injury. If there was no relationship problem between Howie Roseman, Jeffrey Lurie, and Carson Wentz is still here. He was not moved because of injury. So to say, like, it's funny, I'm a Howie supporter, right? Compared to most. I'm not a diehard Howie Roseman fan. He's just not as bad as what people say that he is. I was talking to someone on Coffee with Brodes this morning. I thought it was hysterical. The comment was, I don't think the Eagles are going to be as bad as what they were anticipated being. And I asked that individual, how did you feel at the end of last season? Did you think that Howie Roseman sucked and needed 5 years of rebuilding and he had to be fired because he's the worst general manager in the history of football? And that individual said, yeah, I did. But now I feel a lot better. And I just think that's so damn funny. By the time August comes around, no matter what season it is, everyone seems to turn the page and now feel, hey, we got a shot. You know, it's like, okay, well, that's because of the roster Howie Roseman built, adding Steven Nelson, bringing in Anthony Harris, bringing in Eric Wilson, bringing in these players. That's why you feel the way that you do. Ryan Kerrigan, Howie Roseman had an impact on the way that you feel. But it's funny, in this situation, I don't even support Howie's smart. He knew that Wentz would get hurt. Well, Howie didn't move on from Wentz because of injury. Maybe they drafted Jalen Hurts and they valued that backup quarterback position because of injury. But he's out of town, not even because of his play last year. I'm telling you, if Wentz and him got along, we're not talking about him being out of town. That's why. That's why. And they had to do it, unfortunately. Self-inflicted wounds led them down that road. And now here we are. But it's a shame. You know, I really want to see Wentz battle and either tell his side of the story or the Eagles prove that they're right based off of their play on heading in another direction. You know, it's interesting, though. I don't know. It's bonkers. It's definitely bonkers. What else is the Zach Ertz experience. Here we are with Zach Ertz. He's wearing his pants inside out so you don't even see the logo. What's going on here? I mean, you get into the huddle, and I know you're professionals, and you just got to go about your business, but you're talking about going to war, essentially, with a guy who doesn't ever want to be there, whose heart is not in it, and he's a leader. It would be different if it's some practice squad guy, some 7th, 6th rounder who everybody kind of looks at with a side eye anyway, go, this guy's never going to make it. This is Zach Ertz. And he's, like, there's a part of me that's disappointed in him. Now, I get it. It's not easy. It's clear that he's not in love with the front office and where they're at right now. But if you're going to be out there, what are you doing? Hey, look, you got to get yours. it's a business sometimes where you got to think about yourself. There's plenty of players who do it when it comes to compensation and when it comes to getting out of town, demanding yourself to be traded. I mean, there's plenty of individuals who do it, and this is, I guess, Zach Ertz's way of doing it. But, you talk about not wanting to be a distraction. Well, this is a distraction. This is a big-time distraction. I told you, the reason why he showed up had nothing to do with wanting to be there. It had everything to do with I didn't feel like getting fined thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. It's why Deshaun Watson showed up to the Houston Texans. It's pretty damn obvious he doesn't want to be there, and he shows his face. It does bother me, though, because what's the plan? Is there a plan with Zach Ertz, or is it as simple as whatever happens, just kind of happens? Well, what do you mean? Like, this is a big move. This is a serious action that needs to go down. Is he going to be here? Is he not going to be here? Like, it tells me, I had Zach Berman on the Fanatic, right? And he said, I'm not going to really speculate down the Zach Ertz train because if you asked me 4 months ago, I'd have one answer. If you asked me 2 months ago, I'd have a different answer. If you asked me today, I'd have a third answer. Like, it's just so bizarre and so all over the map, it's hard to truly speculate. But he said, look, we're 6 weeks out to the season. There's a chance he's on this roster by week 1. Well, what does that mean? If he's not bought in, and we're talking about legit Sunday games, all in mode, it's no longer just training camp. But I feel this is getting foolish and a little ridiculous in my opinion. I don't like it. I don't like it at all, and I don't like it from the Eagles standpoint. I don't like it from Zach Ertz's standpoint. I think they're both kind of being, I don't know, it's that breakup in high school where you got the chick and the guy, and you see them in the hallways, and they're both being petty, and they're both being extremely immature. To me, this is kind of being immature. And if I'm Nick Sirianni, and I'm not crushing Nick Sirianni for doing this. This is me just more speaking out loud and thinking, if I was the coach, what would I do here? And this is professional sports. This is not the little Jimmy Little League concept that I always throw around when people want to tie regular little kids playing basketball in AAU to the NBA, which is not the same at all. Or Pop Warner to the NFL, which is not the same at all. But is there an element where the coach steps in, or you just let those two sides figure it out? Because, look, they've been here. They've understood each other way longer than Nick Sirianni. Who's Nick Sirianni to try and fix this issue? I guess, you just kind of let it play out. But do you ever pull Zach Ertz aside and be like, hey, I know it sounds silly. Pants on inside out, not showing the logo. It sounds so silly. But you're trying to build your culture. You're trying to show who you are. Now, maybe that's what Nick Sirianni wants to be. That's the role that he wants to play as head coach. You work out the front office stuff. I'm here to coach X's and O's. I'm here to get my hands on in the middle of practice. And if that's what he wants to do, by all means, I don't want you to be someone you're not. But if you want to build the right culture and build that buy-in factor, is that something that you would think about doing? I don't know what's right or wrong. I truly don't. I don't know. I'm speaking out loud. And speaking of Nick Sirianni, you're seeing him more in action. You're seeing him out there on the field. He did give an off day to the veterans after a couple days of just shorts, which I know the old school guys aren't in love with, but at the same time, that's the new era of football. That's where we are as society. I don't really have an issue with it whatsoever. I do like the fact, though, that he stopped practice after seeing things he did not like. And he said, let's go. Pick it up. Sense of urgency kicked in. I like that. That's big. That's huge. Shows, something about his style as a coach. I also saw Derek Gunn tweet this out. And if you did not catch my episode with Derek Gunn of Schmoozed, make sure you check that out. It was such a phenomenal episode. I really, really, really enjoyed it. But going to D Gunn, he tweeted a couple days ago when he was at practice. He said, sorry, there's a lot going on here. I know it's still early in training camp with the new coaching staff, but after watching practice today, this team has a long ways to go to get ready. Wow. And look, D-Gun's very connected. D-Gun's a hell of a dude. He's not throwing hot takes out there or anything. But it is early, right? I mean, what team is just clicking on all cylinders right away? Maybe a team led by Tom Brady, and I even highly doubt that. He's one of the most historic. Let's start out slow, and by December and January, we're ready to go win a championship. So he doesn't even start out the regular season with a nice, easy breeze. He's always 2-2 after 4, or they're the 2-3 after 5, and then they just go on this amazing winning streak, and that's what Tom Brady does. So, that's normal. And as we alluded to, young players, not a lot of veterans in some parts of the core, for example, wide receiver, and there's some things to be said about that. I think they need to look for one. They really do. You got the Rager situation going on, and, with Rager, Goddard, they didn't make their conditioning tests. Am I going too extreme to bring that up? I don't know. I just feel like 3 weeks from now, we're not even going to talk about it. But it is weird to not be prepared. Now, I saw Jeff McClain's piece about Jalen Rager, talking about his friend that passed away that really impacted his life, and he was in a really tough mental spot. Look, real life happens. Real life issues are legit, and it can mess you up big time. I am not ruling that out of the equation. Dallas Goedert, though, and I am hearing things about Jalen Rager's work ethic in general outside of that situation that occurred that's somewhat upsetting me a bit. It's just a little bizarre that with a new staff, even with an old staff, it doesn't really matter. But knowing, you should be ready to go for your conditioning test. And apparently with Dallas Goedert, it had something to do with not turning the right way or whatever that forced him to miss it. I don't know. It's something little and something tiny, but it's something that I notice as well. Another thing that I notice is DraftKings Sportsbook, which is not only my favorite sportsbook, but also America's top-rated sportsbook. Speaking of America, our top athletes are over in Tokyo competing for the gold, and DraftKings has a medal-worthy offer just for my listeners. Listen to this great offer. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code Brodes when you sign up to turn $1 into $100 in free credits if America wins a medal. That's code Brodes to turn $1 into $100 in free credits for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older. New Jersey, Indiana, or Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or in Indiana, 1-800-9-WITH-IT. So, a couple other storylines just to keep your eyes out for is Jordan Mailata versus Andre Dillard. I thought I saw something that was a little bizarre from Andre Dillard. And it was a quote about him basically saying, look, he's excited for the battle between him and Mailata, although everyone I hear talking about the team and everyone I speak to about the team is saying, look, Andre Dillard's not only the better player right now, but he also looks to have kind of the higher ceiling and the right makeup and the right mentality for it. I heard Sheil Kapadia speak today about Andre Dillard, how emotional he gets after every single play. It's either high in excitement or it's extremely low, and he's hanging his head, and the coaching staff is really on him for that. So, we've heard stories about him in the past where he's throwing his helmet and throwing a tantrum. It just doesn't seem like he's got that it factor on the mental capacity to handle the emotions, which is extremely concerning. And, he was looked at as a high left tackle in that draft. He was looked at as someone who'd be able to step in and really help out, especially knowing how much they threw the football at Washington. He'd be able to do a great job for pass protection, but it's kind of crazy and bizarre. But here's the quote I heard, which just made me raise my eyebrows a bit. Can't wait to get the pads on. The real competition starts tomorrow with the pads now. I always want to make the team first. That's always been my mentality. Huh? Make the team first? Now, I get it. You're right. There is something to be said about that. You want to make the team. That's important. Making the team important. Your first-round pick. Where's the swag? Where's the confidence? Well, I just want to make the team. Make the team. I want to win the job. I want to be the starting left tackle. I want to be the franchise left tackle for years to come. I want to make the team. Make the team? That shouldn't even be a thought. Like, it should be, but it shouldn't be. You should be in a different mentality of, I'm going to go win this thing. I don't know. To me, that's a little strange. That just shows you the mental weakness of Andre Dillard, in my opinion. I don't think I'm going out on a limb, and I don't think I'm reaching. There's another battle, too, by the way, between Josh Sweat and, give me a second, Derek Barnett. The difference between those two, though, is they're going to both be playing, right? Someone's going to start, technically, but the other guy's going to be rotated in throughout the defensive line, and they're still going to play a really important role. With Andre Dillard, you could just be a backup left tackle, which is not necessarily, I know it looks bad because he was your first-round draft pick, which definitely sucks if he ends up being your backup, but that means your seventh-round draft pick became an excellent left tackle who is extremely good. And then you have some depth at the left tackle. The problem is he's not versatile. He can't play around the offensive line. He's got one spot and one spot only. And you would like for that first guy off the bench possibly to be more of that swing individual who can play throughout the line and give you a lot of different looks, if you will. But they do have some players in the making. I like Jack Driscoll and what he's all about. Nate Herbig could play. You obviously have Landon Dickerson, who I'm excited to see, what he brings to the table just of that big physical force. And maybe he can sneak his way in there a lot this season. There's guys that, like when I bring up, Jack Driscoll, you think about where he was drafted and what happened last season with these guys. Like, yeah, they were playing and they were getting abused and their line in general got waxed, but that doesn't mean these individuals as a whole are not going to be something that matters for the depth of this offensive line. And Jeff Stoutland's one of the best coaches in all of football, and he's going to coach these guys up to be forces. Look at Mailata. He didn't just walk in and start being this left tackle, but you teach, you learn, you adapt, you grow, and then eventually you can hold your own. That's the process of some of these younger guys or some of these players that you draft later or you pick up out of nowhere, and they become eventually, when there's some injury problems, they slide in and they're ready for that moment compared to last year where it was a new guy next to you every game. You were playing in a new position every game. Every game. It was just bonkers. It really was absolutely strange. What else do I have here for some of the Eagles news? I think that basically covers it. I did touch on Jalen Hurts and some of the flaws with his accuracy. He's also had some nice moments. Apparently there was 7-on-7. Quez Watkins and him connected on a deep shot. Devonta Smith a few practices ago. Good shot as well. Downfield bomb. I believe you're going to get, and I'll go more into depth on this. Maybe I'll just tease it here as we continue to talk about some training camp news as the practices go by. You're going to get good, okay play from Jalen Hurts. You're going to have okay play. You're going to see a lot of nice moments. You're going to see some ugly moments. And at the end of it, it'll be okay play. The problem is, where does that leave you at the end of the season? I don't think it's going to be miserable. I don't think it's going to be pathetic. I don't think it's going to be great either. It's going to be in that good, okay type atmosphere. And think about what that led you last year, right? You were 1-3 when you were like, okay. But we were also comparing that to the worst quarterback we saw in the NFL last year. So maybe it's you're a 6 standing next to a 2 at the bar, which makes you look like a 10 theory. And I'll leave you there. Thank you all so much for listening to this episode of Sports Talk with Brodes, and I will see you next time.